Hey everybody, JCB here with The Awesomest, and you're watching The Awesomest Travel Vlog. So this is the final part of my 5-part anniversary travel vlog series. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 4, you can watch those videos by clicking on this right here, and it'll take you right to a playlist where you can watch all the videos. So we begin part 5 on day 8.
So we are in Anaheim, California, waiting for the bus so that we can go back to Disneyland for another day of sunburn and kiddie rides.
We started our day at California Adventure feeling kind of lost. We had a reservation for the Storyteller's Breakfast Buffet, and we knew it was located inside the Grand Californian Hotel, but we didn't know exactly where. And all the employees were really bad at giving directions whenever we asked. Oh yeah, you want to go around there, and then it's back that way through the door, and then it's on your side. If you're worried the same thing might happen to you, here's how you find the place. First, make your way to the Grand California Hotel. Then just go around there, and then back that way through the door, and it's on your side. The place was surprisingly empty. The food was really good, and like Goofy's Kitchen, it wasn't prohibitively expensive, just a little more than you'd pay at any other restaurant in the world. Now, if I had to choose between Goofy's Kitchen and Storytellers for a breakfast buffet, I would definitely choose Storytellers. While the food is similar, Storytellers is just a little bit better, and it makes it worth choosing over Goofy's Kitchen. Now, since we were heading right into California Adventure afterwards, and since we had been there once before, we came up with the plan of attack. We decided to head directly to Soarin Around the World, formerly Soaring over California, and grab a fast pass. Then head right to Radiator Springs and get on the Cars ride before the crowds piled in. And pile in they did. We made it through the line in about 20 to 30 minutes, which we've heard from a lot of people is a really short wait time for this ride. It starts out as your typical Disneyland dark ride, and by this point my expectations were pretty low. I figured the hoopla over this ride was probably due to the high quality animatronic cars that look like they're right out of the movie Cars. So to me this just felt like an updated version of a ride like Alice in Wonderland. And then the race portion started. That part was so much fun. If I was a kid, that would be my favorite ride ever. After Radiator Springs Racers, we still had some time to kill before Soarin was ready for us, so we hung out in Radiator Springs a little more. Luigi's Rollickin Roadsters is a pretty impressive ride from a technical standpoint. All of the individual cars are self-contained vehicles and are synchronized and controlled wirelessly.
Such a smooth dance, babe. We're good at this.
We then went to watch the Bugs Life It's Tough to Be a Bug show, which was pretty fun. It's nice to get out of the heat, and the show itself is pretty funny. It was great to see people jump when the water sprayed at them or that plastic thing acted like a stinger. So by this point, Soarin Around the World was ready for us, and as I had mentioned, I had been on Soaring over California before, and this update is pretty much what you'd expect. More helicopter and drone footage of different parts of the world. It's still pretty fun though. Next up was the Grizzly River Run. This is another of those Roaring Rapids type of rides. There's not a whole lot to say about this one, other than the little girl we ended up riding with was really brave for her age. Next up is California Screamin. This ride is most notable for being the only ride at either park that goes upside down, and it has kind of an old Colossus look about it. Even though the ride is actually all steel, it is made to look like an old wooden coaster. These tunnels you see along the ride are actually scream tubes designed to redirect the screams of the riders back into the park. This is required due to the close proximity of the coaster to residential areas. I was excited for this ride because I figured this was Disney's answer to Magic Mountain's thrill rides. Disney handles the storytelling, dark, flat rides designed for little kids really well, and in response, Magic Mountain focused from the very start on thrill rides for older kids and adults. So California Adventure as a whole, and the California Screamin in particular, seemed like the perfect opportunity to apply that spare no expense, push the envelope Disney spirit to a thrill ride, and show Six Flags Magic Mountain what a real coaster can do. Unfortunately, it's more like a thrill ride from the 1970s. The Revolution, to be exact. Sure, it starts with a launch start instead of a lift hill, which is always a cool way to start a ride, but then it's basically just some banked turns before the ride's one loop, and then it's over. And it's not that it's a bad ride, it's still plenty fun and definitely worth the wait in line. I was just hoping Disney would pull out all the stops for this coaster, as it's pretty big and you can see it from the parking lot.
Today we are at California Adventure, which is right next door to Disneyland. You can see the pier and everything back there. So far we've been on the Cars racing ride. We went on Soarin' Over California, the dancing car ride, and the roaring run, or rapid run, whatever it is. It's a water ride. It's fun. So far my favorite is the Cars ride though. That racing part was pretty cool.
Next, we went on the Toy Story Midway Mania ride.
I heard that, you hockey puck.
This is a really fun interactive 3D ride. Riders go from big screen to big screen wearing 3D glasses and fling video projectiles at targets and balloons to see who gets the highest score. In this case, that was me.
We just finished up the Toy Story something like that. Anyway, we got our cool shades. These are our scores.
That's me.
No, I won.
That's me.
Green.
Me.
No. Cool.
Next up was the Little Mermaid Ride, which should fit right in over at Disneyland next to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Pinocchio, and even the Haunted Mansion. In fact, that's what it reminded me of the most. The big clamshell you sit in is similar to the cart in Haunted Mansion, and you turn and rotate the same way that ride does. It's all really similar. Goofy's Sky School is actually pretty fun. It's a typical Wild Mouse type coaster you'd see at any freeway fun park like Scandia or a traveling carnival. Now, while doing research for this video, I learned that a lot of people actually hate this ride, mainly because it was purchased off the shelf and wasn't specifically imagineered for this park. But I have to say this ride is actually a little more fun than California Screamin', just because it has a little bit more of an edge to it. It's a little more thrilling because it feels like on any one of those tight turns, you might tip out of the cart completely.
So when we go to Six Flags, we don't normally pay for drinks like at all because we have our souvenir bottles. And I know they're expensive there too, but this is the most expensive Diet Coke I've ever bought. It was $3.50. Probably worth every penny though, because it's hot.
Next, we made our way to the Tower of Terror, a free fall style tower drop ride that is actually on its way to being shut down or replaced. This was late June, and already there were murmurs of the tower being taken down and replaced with a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. So we made a point of riding the Tower of Terror one last time, as we knew we probably wouldn't be back to the park anytime soon. This ride is really more amusing than scary. Instead of a free fall like on Drop of Doom, you kind of bounce up and down, with the falling sensation only lasting a few moments each time. Next up was the Animation Academy, in which a Disney artist teaches you how to draw a Disney character. We learned how to draw Sally from A Nightmare Before Christmas. This is my wife's drawing, and here's my attempt. After that, we went to see Turtle Talk with Crush, an interactive animated show with Crush the Turtle from Finding Nemo. This was a lot of fun, and the kids who got to ask questions and interact with Crush seemed to really enjoy it. We also checked out the Sorcerer's Workshop, which was a lot of fun, though a little overcrowded. We then decided to head back over to Disneyland because we still had plenty of time to kill and felt like we'd done everything we wanted to. So the rest of the time was spent just shopping and taking in the sights. Okay, so it's time to start the grading process for this entire trip. Six Flags Discovery Kingdom gets an A. It's so much cleaner and cooler than Magic Mountain that I couldn't help but enjoy myself. I would have given it an A+, but the slim pickings when it comes to thrill rides hurt its score just slightly. The Jelly Belly Factory also gets an A. I had a great time with my family seeing firsthand how these little candies get made and all the crazy Jelly Belly merchandise they had to offer. Bravo Farms gets an A as well. They had great food, amazing cheese, and lots of sights and sounds to experience. This is definitely a welcome pit stop on the way to and from Discovery Kingdom. Disneyland gets a B+ for me. It accomplishes everything it sets out to do. The problem is it only sets out to entertain little children, and that's it. Though the tasty food is definitely a saving grace. California Adventure gets a B. It's nice that the park isn't anywhere nearly as crowded as Disneyland, and some of the rides like Radiator Springs Racers are top notch. But it feels too much like an extension of Disneyland and those same Disneyland type rides to warrant its own park. I had higher hopes that this would have a greater focus on thrill rides and leave the little kid rides like Monsters Inc. and the Little Mermaid to Disneyland. Oh, I almost forgot. When we got back from Disneyland, we had a couple days left to kill on our vacation, so we decided to head to Magic Mountain.
Today we are on our last theme park stop on our vacation. Tell them where we are, babe.
Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Six Flags Magic Mountain. Good to be home.
When we first arrived, they gave us these vouchers and said to hand them out to any employees who go above and beyond for us that day. Apparently, every employee with a voucher has a chance to win a prize. Well, the park was packed, and so all the employees were pretty busy just trying to get people on the rides as quickly and safely as possible. So I didn't think any of them would have time to go out of their way, and thus we wouldn't really be handing any of those out that day. Having just been to the Jelly Belly factory, I decided to check out the Jelly Belly store at Six Flags. Yep, Jelly Bellies. Then toward the end of the day, we went on Jetstream and something happened. At the end of the ride, as the boats are returning to the loading station, they go up sort of an incline, which causes the back of the boat to dip down a little bit. Now normally this isn't a problem, but on this occasion, the boats kind of got into a little bit of a traffic jam right there at the end of the ride. So our boat actually bumped the boat in front of us, and we were stuck on this sort of incline here. Then of course the boat behind us came up over the top of the back of our boat because we were down so far. This is another boat that had the same sort of thing happen to it as soon as we got off, though ours was much more drastic. The back of our boat was down so far that water was actually pouring over the edges of our boat. And we had our friend Kelsey with us, who was all the way at the front of the boat. She actually thought the boat was sinking. So she alerted one of the ride attendants, whose mouth immediately dropped as soon as she saw the predicament we were in. That lady got the attention of another ride attendant who came up and looked just as worried, which was hilarious because the boat's sitting in maybe a foot of water. So even if it somehow sank, the worst that would happen is we'd be pretty cold and wet. And that's only if we didn't stand up and step onto the curb that was literally right there. The bigger danger was if the boats continued to back up until the bottom of that drop, then someone might have really gotten hurt. Anyway, that dude came back with 2 more people, so now all hands are on deck, and this is starting to get really hilarious. And then they start busting out the life jackets. So we're sitting there laughing our ass off at this situation when we realize that the entire line queue has backed up due to the fact that they're no longer putting any more boats onto the ride. So there's a huge crowd of people on the bridge above us and on the side of us, all laughing at this weird situation we found ourselves in. Now eventually the ride started moving again and we were able to exit normally. So of course we gave our special vouchers to these 4 heroes who treated what was a very funny malfunction like it was a serious life or death situation, and got us out of there with relatively dry butts. Overall, I had a blast on my anniversary vacation. I couldn't think of a better way to spend it than with my wife and daughter exploring these fantastic theme parks. I got to experience some new rides and revisit some old ones I hadn't been on since I was a kid. I hope you enjoyed this little adventure of mine. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I release new videos every week, and until next time, keep being awesome. Thankfully, the dive instructor got some footage. Some. Oh man. Looks like a funhouse mirror. Let me tell you, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because I will never do it again.